Welcome to the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Authors Unite. Authors Unite provides you with all the resources you need to become a successful author. You can learn more about Authors Unite and join the free community at authorsunite.com. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today, I have Renzo Urzua with us. He is a speaker and leadership development expert who currently works as a trainer for MasterCard under Global Contact Center Management, or GCCM. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
Of course, grateful to have you here. We'll jump into the first one, Renzo. The first question I have for you is, what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Well, I married in my early 20s with my wife, and I started a family shortly after. So we've currently got 4 kids. And at one stage, they were all 2 years apart. They're all currently 2 years apart. So at one stage, we had 4 kids under the age of 6. And it just happened that way. It's not that it was planned or anything. And it sounds tough having 4 kids, and it really is, because you sacrifice, so much for them. So, while other friends were, buying houses or traveling all over the world, you're working hard to give the kids the best that you can, right? So imagine, like shopping or going out just with 4 kids in tow, all under 6. It's tough. You don't forget about sleeping, buying yourself nice things, because everything just goes for your kids. But it does get easier as they grow older. So for all your young parents out there, it does get easier, so hang in there. But most importantly, I always remember that before we had our children, it was just my wife and I. And I think that's something very important that a lot of couples, especially young couples, need to remember, that before the kids, you fell in love with your partner, and make sure you go out on dates. And it doesn't have to be expensive dinners. It could even be simple things like breakfast, help around the house, that sort of stuff. I've been married for 23 years and together 26. So I think that I'm doing something right with my wife. Just spending some time alone really, really helps. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I've come across in life. Yeah.
And what's the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
It might sound cliche, but especially coming from a trainer, but never stop learning and constantly feed your mind. And I don't mean reading Facebook or the tablets or social media, because that really doesn't count. But grab the latest bestseller, or jump online, do a course, because there's hundreds of courses online that are free as well. So it doesn't cost you anything really, just a little bit of time. A lot of workplaces these days as well, they've got learning management systems that allow you to do things that interest you in the workplace. So that's cool. But constantly feed your mind, let your imagination run rampant, while reading a book or doing a course, and always test yourself.
And what's your best piece of overall business advice, so not necessarily industry specific?
Sure. Well, this goes with something I'm really passionate about, so leadership skills. And I think one of the most important things about leading a team or a group of people is building a connection with them. You want people to work with you and not for you. So leaders ask themselves, how well do you know your employees? Well, it might seem simplistic, getting to know your team on a more personal level, but it's often forgotten, by leaders, that they have reports to run, or, run work tasks, or, meetings, and they forget about the connection piece. Yeah. So, how well do you know your team? You need to ask yourself some simple questions. When's one of your team leaders, your team members' birthdays? Has anyone been through a family crisis? Is this why their, performance is slipping? Do you know that? Who in your team's a creative thinker, or which one of them is more analytical? Can you name a hobby that they like, or interests? All of these things, it's really important just to get to know your team. And it's gone are the days where, you would crack a whip and put the fear of God into people, especially in a sales environment. Nowadays, you really have to get to know people in order to connect with them so they can believe in you, because trust is one of the most important things, I think. When people have trust in you, good things happen. And you'll do good things with people behind you. And you'll as leader.
And if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Probably don't overthink it. Just do it. That's probably the best piece of advice I could give myself. I was always overthinking things, that I didn't have the skills or the ability, or maybe I won't get that job, or what if it's not what I expected, that sort of stuff. I never just went for it. And it sounds simple, but always be a doer instead of a thinker, because being a doer requires an insane amount of discipline and commitment, and it does involve a bit of risk. But it's the only way that you can make progress, really. My wife, she's a doer. She does it really well, and I admire her so much for it. I'm slowly getting better at it, but I've still got some learning to do. But yeah, just go for it. Don't overthink it.
And kind of going down a different path, but in your opinion, what's the key to happiness?
Well, two things really is my key to happiness. Number one is be present. That's the most important. So we get caught up in the rat race of our daily lives and forget to stop and live the moment. Don't worry about tomorrow because it hasn't happened, and forget about yesterday because that's really long gone. And you can't change what happened. So live, breathe, and take it all in and live the moment. So, take care of the present. The future will take care of itself. But number two is enjoy what you do, especially your job. If you drag yourself out of bed or dread the thought of entering the workplace, or, dislike the people that you're working with, the environment, or, you'll start to procrastinate and you'll start to really hate what you do. It's time for you to go when that happens, really. So when you enjoy what you do, you're more productive, which means you'll be happy. And if you're happy, you'll inspire people, and when you do that, you'll succeed as well.
And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
Well, one of my first jobs was working at a bookstore, and it was around the time Stephen King's The Green Mile came out, so many, many years ago. So it wasn't a self-help book or anything like that. It was a Stephen King book, and it was a serial. The Green Mile was a serial that was released in six volumes over a 6-month period. And it's this wonderful story about, a character called John Coffey who has this empathetic and healing power. Spoilers for The Green Mile. And all of this isn't revealed right away. It's revealed as the serial progresses. So during this time, I used to judge people on face value, which isn't the way or the right way to deal with people, right? So, but I was in my early 20s, with a huge chip on my shoulder. But reading this book, which is so well written, made me realize, hey, maybe you should get to know people first before you make judgment. So it wasn't a self-help book, like I said, but something written by, the master storyteller, Stephen King. And from that point on, I've become a big Stephen King fan, and it changed me along the way as well.
And what is your favorite quote and why?
One of my favorite quotes is from Wayne Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And the reason for that is because taking a shot is really scary. Taking a shot means that you put yourself, money, reputation out there, and it's a big risk. Taking a shot means, potentially facing the possibility that you may fail, and you might fail in front of family and friends as well. But you never know until you take the shot, right? So, what happens if you score first go?
Absolutely, man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. Very insightful show. The last question I have for you before we let you go is, where is the best place for people to find and or connect with you online?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, LinkedIn. LinkedIn will probably be the best place. So look for me under Renzo Urzua, and I'll be happy to connect. I've met some wonderful people. I've had some wonderful opportunities through LinkedIn, like being on this podcast with you, Tyler. So, yeah, LinkedIn would be the best place.
Awesome, brother. Thank you again. We appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for having me.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.